Welcome to the Life and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss business, leadership, and friendship. I'm Zach Goebel.
And I'm Jared Totsch. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to episode 2. Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to say a big thank you for everyone who commented, who gave feedback, ratings, whatever. All of those positive critiques were very helpful, and we appreciate that, and we hope that you continue to do that. So on this episode, we are going to be talking about perspectives, and that's what we're going to spend the majority of the episode talking about today, and we're really excited about this topic. We're going to be kind of having this conversation for the first time. So we said that we were going to talk about perspectives. We got a little bit of an idea of where we're going, but we each kind of made our own notes, and we're going to see where this goes. So,
yeah. I don't have too many notes, Jared, but we did discuss this. We started to discuss this a little bit, and then we stopped and we said, this is actually where when we get to our conclusion, we want to do that in the podcast. And so we just want this to be one of our regular chats, arguments, discussions, if you will, whatever it turns out to be. We are not quite sure about that, where it will turn out. But as Jared said, we do appreciate all of the support that you all have given us for the first episode, and the kind text messages, phone calls, reaching out, a couple emails and things of that nature. And that just means the world to us. So we appreciate that. We are going to, as you can tell, we're going to try to video record this one as well, the whole thing, and we will see how this turns out. So, yes. And as you can see, as we mentioned in our first episode, we still have taped on our microphones with a line drawn through it. So we are doing our best. So anyway, for this second episode, we have many different topics that we have talked about and that we have written down for ideas for a future podcast. Oh, that's one other thing. We did have people reach out to us and want to know more about some of those stories that we discussed and from when we were younger. And
so absolutely, we will try to weave those into make them meaningful and not so random, but we'll try to make those meaningful and get them in the...
And who knows, maybe one of these, one podcast soon, we may just sit down and tell some stories that are funny. Because we do have plenty of them, but we had... I don't know about you, Jared. I had people come up to me and say, we need to know the end of the story.
Yes, I had several text messages and phone calls and people stating that they appreciated that and would like to know some of those stories.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we enjoy telling them. So.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we will get to those when we can, but we do want to dive into this topic of perspectives today. And Jared, you actually came up with this topic whenever, I think a couple weeks ago, whenever we were discussing our second podcast, and you said this one was really in your mind quite a bit, and you wanted to discuss it.
Yeah,
so we'll let you start.
Yeah, so this topic for me has always been important because I believe perspectives, and we're going to get into that here in just a second about where perspectives come from, but it's always been important to me because there's this element that I appreciate about people when they have human dignity. And I think in understanding perspectives, I think that gets to this point of human dignity. Also, this idea of perspectives launched in my brain again when I was reading a book called How to Know a Person, and it's by David Brooks. It's a phenomenal book, by the way. So just if you want to check that book out, it's absolutely awesome. But yeah, so I think in order to discuss perspectives, you have to start with understanding where perspectives come from. Yeah. And I think that's the important piece. Before we even get into why perspectives are important in leadership and businesses and running an organization, a company, life in general, you have to understand where they're coming from. So perspectives are built from the very earliest age in a child. So everything that a child bumps up against, both figuratively and literally.
They do that a lot.
Yes, absolutely. But figuratively and literally is forming their perspective of the world and how they view the world and happenings. So for all my early childhood friends, you know that, like, for example, responsive caregiving. when an educator is responsive to a child and their needs, when they really hone in and pull out and can identify what a child needs and what they need, right? So it begins to build that child's perspective that there are key people in my world that are very helpful,
Sure.
and they see people as helpful, and then you get on to older ages, and when a child really gets from their educator or their parent or someone else that their opinion matters, that what they have to say in life matters, that begins to build that person's perspective of the world, right? And that's in a psychological sense as well. And then you have that physical sense, like, you perspective of things, like whether something's hot, cold, whether it's good or bad, you have all of those perspectives. But I think it's important to understand that everything we bump up against in life is forming a perspective.
Sure.
Right? So how I interact with you is
like this, trying to be serious.
Right? That is building your perspective of who I am. So perfect example right here. I think it's a great example. So think about when you go into a coffee shop. For me, I'm going to give a shout out to 2 coffee places that I'm thinking of in my head.
Here we go.
So a local coffee shop, Honeymoon Coffee, and then also River City Coffee. Both of those places I love going into, and why? Right? Why? Why do I love going into those places? It's not just because of the coffee. It's not just because of this. But I have built this perspective of those locations and of those places from the interactions and the things that I have encountered when I walk into those doors. So I'll give you an example. Honeymoon Coffee, we had a week off of work. I went in there and was working for that week. And even though we were supposed to have a week off, I was still working every day, right? And the employees of that location, super friendly, welcoming, learned my name by the second or third visit. My whole perspective of that place is different. So honestly, I could go in there and have like maybe a rude employee or something, and it wouldn't jade it too bad, because I'd be like, I know that's not typical for them.
Sure.
Like my perspective of that place. Yeah. The same thing with River City Coffee. Like there's a gentleman in there, knows me. He learned my name very quickly. Called me by name. Right? That helps me form a perspective. So everybody gets their perspective through encounters in life, through things that happen to them, through everything that they bump. And I like to use that word, you bump up against, right? Mm-hmm. Because it literally is physical and psychological. Like,
so you would say that no matter whether it's a good interaction or a negative interaction, no matter what, any interaction that you have with a person or business or relationship,
absolutely.
Anything,
it's building
every
encounter. And I would say it's an encounter because it's truly like, if I encounter everything that you bump up against is truly an encounter, because it has an effect on you. Mm-hmm. And encounters have effects on people, right? So everything in life, and an artist will tell you this as well, as they begin to manipulate the whatever art they're working with, mm-hmm. whether it's paint, clay, whatever, it has an effect on them. Right. And they have an effect on that person or on that piece of art mm-hmm. that they are bringing. So everything in life, regardless if it's good or bad, fun, not fun, right? It's forming, shaping, mm-hmm. molding your perspective. And this is why I say early childhood friends. This is why I say how you treat a child and how you interact with a child matters. Yeah. Like it so immensely matters how you mm-hmm. Put forth and what you say and what you don't say. Mm-hmm. So if a child doesn't feel acknowledged, that's building their perspective mm-hmm. that adults don't acknowledge me.
It puts a whole new weight on every conversation, on every encounter.
Absolutely.
With people. It puts a whole new weight on, and I'm sitting here thinking about all these things, and every encounter that I have with our team, every mm-hmm. encounter that our team has with our customers, every encounter that I have with fellow business people, different things, it puts it just puts a whole new weight. When you think about it in that fashion, it puts a whole new weight on those encounters and
Yeah.
how you make the most of or
Yeah.
do not make the most of those encounters.
And so think about this. I'm 40 years old.
Yes, happy birthday, by the way, Jared. This is just last, well, when was it? Wednesday?
Yes.
Just
because you got the wrong day.
I did. I did. We did throw a surprise birthday party for
You did.
for
It was
Jared,
amazing.
and it turned
It was
out
awesome.
really well, even through the snow and everything. But I did. I was actually sick with the flu, and I had not gotten out of bed for several days, and my dates were all mixed up. And on the 22nd, I texted Jared and said, "Hey, tomorrow you start a whole new decade," and it wasn't until the 24th. So anyway, Jared, yeah, just
Great.
entering a brand new atmosphere here into the 40s.
Yes, it's all good. It is all good. But think about this. I've had 40 years to build the perspective that I've had. It's a long time, right? It's a long time. I've had 40 years to build. But that perspective, my outlook on life started at those earliest ages. So once again, my early childhood friends, those young ages matter.
Yeah.
Like it immensely matters.
And not just those in early childhood education, but parents.
Life, yes, people.
Anybody
who
that you're-
encounters
yeah.
children, anybody else. But okay, so 40 years of perspective building, right? And then I encounter you, who doesn't have 40 years, but you do have 30 some years of.
He doesn't even know my age.
I had to stop and think. 36
35.
years. 35.
Yeah. One of those
35.
years.
35. That's really bad. Okay.
Yes, last episode, we talked about how such great friends we are. And in this episode, you find out that he
It's
doesn't
my
even know my
age.
age.
It's my age. It is absolutely my age. No, so you've had 35 years, and your encounters have been different than my encounters.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's transition this to leadership. Let's transition this to a business. Let's transition this to a team.
Okay, so I would like to step in.
Yeah,
in
go
that
for it.
first. And just so I really enjoy, in fact, and I will not mention names or anything, but I really enjoy those times that I am able to spend with my team, especially on a one-on-one basis. And I've noticed ever since, it's really been, and I just mentioned this today to a team member of ours, to someone that I was talking to, and I've noticed, especially since COVID hit, since 2020, that people are it's a lot more prevalent now, the mental struggles that people have. And I don't know if it's just that people aren't hiding them anymore. People aren't afraid to talk about them. And I think that's great. I think it's great that people are acknowledging that there is a struggle mentally, you know. And I think that's a very important thing to do, is to take care of your mental health and your physical health and your spiritual health. Obviously, you know, it's
Absolutely.
it's
All the
something
above.
all the above, to take care of yourself and to recognize when there's an issue there. And so I absolutely love to be able to sit down with my team, with our team, and just be able to talk to them. And I love, just today I was able to sit down with someone who's going through something, some struggles, and getting ready to face an obstacle that they did not know was coming. They weren't prepared for. And we were able to talk, and I was able to just share with them how much I care. I'm not just their boss. I'm not just someone they work with or work for, but we genuinely care about our team and about what they're going through. And it seems like the more that we are able to be involved with our team on a personal level, the more that it shows that we care.
And
so
would you say that you better understand their perspective?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what I was getting at, is that whenever I'm able to kind of dig a little bit deeper into the personal lives of our team, and I don't go around and share those things, but whenever I'm able to do that, I can understand them more, and I can understand their perspective on our business, their perspective on the things that we do and the decisions that we make. And it allows me to be able to make decisions with an education of
With a different lens.
With a different lens, an education of how they may perceive this decision. And whether it's leaders in leadership, whether it's a decision that you're making, whether it's an action that you take, or if it's even an action that you don't take, the perspective of your team, the perspective of those that you're leading, you need to know where they're coming from and why, what they may think.
Absolutely.
Now, and we briefly discussed before this, I said one of the first things that came to my mind was walking a mile in someone's shoes, or walking in someone's shoes. And you had said that's not a good analogy. That's not a good phrase to use, because you really never know. You can't walk in someone else's shoes. You don't know what they've been through. But on a perspectives basis, you've dug into their life personally, and you've shared your life personally. As a leader, you should share these things, and you should connect with them on a personal level, so that you may have a better understanding of their perspective and how they may react to.
And I would say, like, it comes so understanding perspectives. It's not that you day one with an employee just open up all about yourself. You just, here's all my dirt, here's everything about me, right?
Yeah.
But it's called about building a relationship and taking time to understand, taking time to listen, right? Listen to, hear to listen to hear. It's taking time for those things, and then you begin to see, sometimes without even asking the question, you begin to like understand better where that person, how that was developed. And they may never tell you some of their deepest, darkest secrets, or the hardest things, or the toughest things that they've ever encountered in life. But you begin to understand and have this different view of this different lens of viewing them, of knowing that, so there are some reasons why they look at life this way. And what is beautiful, this is what I think is what's beautiful, is when you have a team that values the perspective of each other, then you have a team that grows. Because it's not about my perspective being better than your perspective, but it's about how do our perspectives come together and then begin to build a perspective together, like how we are together. So it's like these two perspectives not necessarily becoming one, right, but growing together, and then each person grows. You have to have the right disposition for that, right? People have to have open minds, open hearts, be willing to look through, be willing to acknowledge that, you know what, I have looked at life this way. I learned as a person, I learned the hard way many times in my early years of coaching, of leading teams. I learned the hard way. And here's an example of, so I'm single. I don't have children, family, all this. I don't have people to cook, clean for, it's myself, right? And my perspective of work ethic was built from day one in my life. Of all the things that my family went through, that we have gone through, is that you have to work hard for everything, and you have to put an 110% if you're going to get out of anything, right? That's my perspective of life, right? And so I'll go to work, and I'll be at work at 6 a.m. and finish at 10 p.m. at night. And I think that's just what you're supposed to do, right? But the person across the hall who has 7 kids, a spouse to take care of, a sick kid who's been staying with another relative, groceries to get, budgets to balance, schoolwork, tests, all those things, if I say, I'm putting in all this hard work, and you just want to be in and out. Okay, so that's a whole other perspective. And I had to learn that, right? As a coach and as a leader, I had to learn, that's a different perspective of life. I can view people, if I view everybody that everybody should be giving the exact same percentage that I feel they're actually giving 100%. They really are, or 110%, right? And their 110% looks different than my 110%. Sure. And it's okay. And it's those are hard lessons, I think, as leaders to learn. But once you begin to, and then you grow that perspective together, what does you giving 100%, or giving your best this week? It might be just in the week, because you might have the flu.
So it kind of makes me think of the Bible story about the woman who gave the 2 mites. Right. And, how she gave more than anyone else there.
Because she gave her all.
Because she gave her all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is, it's interesting to think about. People coming from different backgrounds, from different home lives, just in every way, in every fashion.
Yeah. That's why I love and appreciate the friends that I have around me and that I have in my world, and I've learned to. And I will say that I did not always appreciate what the perspectives that they brought into my world in life. But as I become older, you live through things, you experience things, your perspective grows, and you begin to appreciate people, right? And I don't know. I think it's really important as leaders to just understand the fact, if you can start anywhere, just acknowledging that there's a different perspective. I might not yet be able to figure out how to see that other perspective, but first step is acknowledgement. Acknowledging that, okay, we obviously have two different perspectives.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I feel like I've dominated the conversation.
Oh no, you're fine. This is in your realm, and I appreciate your perspective on it. One thing that I thought about when you were talking was, there are people who will not, on your team or under your leadership, there are people who will not be comfortable. I think you mentioned this briefly earlier, that are not or will not be comfortable with sharing their reasons for their perspective, and having the respect for that person to allow them to. Not everyone is as outgoing as we are, and
I'm not outgoing.
Not everyone is as outgoing as we are, and so allowing them, respecting their personality enough, because, and this is something else that we've talked about a lot in the past, is personalities in the way that people handle things differently.
Absolutely.
It makes a difference.
You hate talking on the phone.
I do hate talking on the phone.
And I would rather pick up the phone and have a conversation with you. Like, I would rather do that, right?
Yeah.
But we had to come to an agreement.
And it's actually funny that you mentioned the phone. I don't know how many people know this, but I never have my phone during the day. I never have my phone off of silent. That's why I have a smartwatch, is so I know when my phone is ringing. I cannot stand hearing my phone ring. The only time the ringer is on is in the night. That way, if I get a phone call in the middle of the night.
So he puts me on
do not disturb.
Do not disturb during the day, and he does.
No, I do not.
Just marks it off.
No, I do not.
No, but honestly, so that's a thing that we have had to figure out through our friendship and relationship, like the balance of that.
Well, and here's my perspective is that my phone. I mean, there's times where my phone has had 100 to 150 phone calls in one day, and my phone, there's times where it just rings off the hook, and it has driven me to a great hatred for talking on the phone. And so, but on the other hand, you are more of a person who loves to talk. I'm more of a texter who I would like to I can have 15 different conversations at one time and be more productive, on that sense.
You don't like to have meaningful encounters with people. Is that what I'm sensing?
No, I'm just kidding. I do.
No, you really do. But it's about perspective, and I think you're exactly right. You were saying about how that your perspective, you're very busy. You're on the phone all the time. So you being on the phone again with me is not like, I mean, come on. That's not like the most thrilling thing in the world, right?
It's never boring. I'll put it that way.
Very dramatic, sometimes dramatic, and but I would say we have figured that piece out. And so when it's important and when I need to talk about something important in my world or life or something that's going on, you will talk on the phone. But I also have found out that I can communicate in ways, and that you'll get back to me, that our friendship is still intact, that like you're not just putting me on mute.
So here's something really important that I just came to mind whenever you said, whenever you're going through things. So perspectives, they're going to always be changing. Perspectives are always going to be changing because of those constant daily interactions, encounters with people and things. And, when perspectives change, we must be able to adapt, whether it's a friendship, able to adapt to your perspective on this has now changed because of whatever.
Yeah.
And having that ability to adapt, whether it's in leadership, friendship, family, relationship, whatever it is, that's important. Would you agree with
Absolutely. I would say that's absolutely important. And you triggered it triggered these thoughts in my brain while you were talking, because you used the word encounter again. And I would like to go back, and I don't even know how much time we have left for this podcast, but I'd like to go back to that word and what you were saying about encounter, because encountering is a choice that we make every day. Mm-hmm. I can choose to actually make it an encounter, because it's somebody's having the encounter, right? Mm-hmm. My employee is having the encounter, or I'm having the encounter, or we're both having the encounter, right? Mm-hmm. I can choose to make it an encounter. I can choose to just make it's just another moment in time, right? And there's a difference. There's a difference, because if I truly bump up against or have a conversation with a person believing that is an encounter, that means I walked into this with an open heart and open mind.
That's good. Yeah.
Like, I walked into it ready to listen, ready to hear, ready to truly have an encounter with somebody or something. And I think that's different, because that's truly where perspectives are changed. Then the other thing that I think is important, and you, like, all those things you were saying kept, like, hitting these notes in my head.
This is why we didn't want to talk about it before we recorded, because we wanted you all to come on this ride with us and get to the same conclusion that we get to through this. So this is neat.
Well, not even the same conclusion. Yeah, it might be the different.
Not that it's the answer.
Right. But just grow with us. Grow with us.
Exactly.
So the other thing is disposition and that openness. So I think you slightly touched on this as well. So one of the things that we tried, and here's a strategy that might work for people out there, when you are encountering or hiring a person, you're looking not only for credentials of what you need. Yes, can they communicate well? Are they do they have a certain skill set that you need, right? But not just that, but is their disposition one that is open? Yeah. That is opening to encounter other people and to begin to shift the lens of which they view the world and others. Is it one of those? Because if they have a disposition of, well, this is pretty much just this way and this way, no other way, boom, then I would say you're going to encounter a problem.
And as you know, bringing one person into a team can completely change the whole outlook of the team and the whole mindset of the team.
And knowing that some people, they come in and they may not have that fully open disposition, right? Might not be all the way there, but you can catch that glimmer of, hey, like they've got like this nudge or willingness to start opening up some more and to have this open disposition. Those are the people you latch on to.
Yeah.
That's who you want on your team. Because then when you begin to develop that team and you pull on another new team member, it's not going to be like spending 25 weeks trying to figure out, like, well, are they going to take my office? Are they going to take this space? Are they going to get the better shift? Are they going to, like all that? But it actually is spent getting to know who the person is. So then when those times come of hard changes or just changes in general, you know a person better. Yeah. Like, I don't know, it goes back to relationships. I don't know if that, I kind of veered off where you went to, but it was triggering so many things in my brain to think about. But
that's good. And I think we're getting close on time here. So any last things that I hate trying to put a time restraint on things, because the more we talk, the more that we dive into and find out, but anything else that you can think of?
No, not that a lot. I would say if I could just reference back to that, to the book, How to Know a Person. I have a whole list of books if anybody ever wants to know. Leadership books I absolutely love. I enjoy reading immensely. And then, especially when you get to talking about where perspectives come from, that's a whole nother topic, like how perspectives are built, and in our very youngest citizens of the world, like where they are built, and how they are developed. But I think just understanding, having an open heart and open mind to everyone that you encounter, and making sure that when you bump up against someone in a sense of psychological sense, right? That you truly note that as an encounter, and make sure that you understand that it is an encounter with that person. It's not just a passing, fleeting moment, but you are actually having an encounter with every person. And I think if you begin to view every interaction and action as an encounter, there's this element of human dignity that begins to emerge. And you see the dignity in every human being. And that begins then to alter and shape your perspective, right? And then you, in turn, are influencing that person, right? Because then all of a sudden they have a different perspective of like, wow.
Yeah. And that's so good for not just leadership in business.
Life.
Just in life in general. In ministry, those of you that are in ministry or studying to be in ministry, my goodness, I mean, think about how much that would change your encounters with people if you viewed it as this is an encounter. It's not just a fleeing,
I do have to throw out
by.
a prop here. I have to throw out a kudos to somebody. So the word encounter, I encountered the word encounter more deeply with Sister Joanne Vasha, who I worked with, who is a daughter of Charity. And she and I had many, many discussions about the idea of encountering.
She's a very nice lady.
She is. She's amazing. Get teary-eyed. No, but we had phenomenal discussions about encountering and what it means. And her story is her story, and I will always leave that to her. But just really understanding the power of encountering a person. That every person you
That's
encounter.
Awesome. Well, I think we better wrap it up. Thank you all so much for watching or listening. And that wraps up episode 2. And please, if you can share with your friends and family, if you can give us a like on whatever platform you're listening or watching, and that would just help us out a lot to get this podcast out there. We appreciate it, and we are really loving this. We're loving how much we're able to grow personally.
Absolutely.
And with our leadership with this. And we're having a good time with it as well. So let us know. Our email is lifeandleadership@gmail.com, and it's all spelled out. You can send us an email. You can, if you have time, we would love it if you could give us a rating on whatever platform you're using. And until next time, we thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much.